sold watermelons to support her sick son, and the millionaire's daughter says, "Buy them all, Daddy." Martha Harrison was arranging the watermelons on the wooden cart as sweat dripped down her sunburned face. For 2 years, she had been selling fruit on the side of the state highway that cut through the interior of Georgia to pay for the treatment of her 8-year-old son, Caleb, who had been born with leg problems and needed constant physical therapy. That's when a luxurious black car braked sharply in front of her, kicking up a cloud of red dust. Martha wiped her hands on her dirty apron and approached, expecting just another hurried customer. But what she heard from the rear window left her speechless. "Daddy, buy them all!" shouted a blonde girl of about 6, pointing directly at her. "She needs it. Buy all her watermelons." The man in the driver's seat, wearing a dark suit even in the 100-degree heat, looked embarrassed at Martha. She noticed the expensive watch on his wrist, the Italian leather shoes, the imported cologne that reached her even with the windows open. "Abigail, that's not how it's done," murmured the father, but the girl insisted. "Please, Daddy. She's in the hot sun selling fruit. She must be tired." Martha felt her face grow even hotter. She didn't need pity, but honest work. She straightened her shoulders and forced a professional smile. "Good morning. The watermelons are sweet. They just arrived from Cordelia. Would you like to try a slice?" The man got out of the car, revealing himself to be taller than she had imagined. He must have been around 40, with dark hair and a few grey strands at his temples, a tired expression of someone carrying too many responsibilities. "How much for all of them?" he asked directly, without beating around the bush. "All of them?" Martha hesitated. "There are 60 watermelons, sir. $200 for the whole lot." It was a fair price, neither too expensive nor too cheap. She always made a point of being honest in business, even if it meant earning less. The man took out his wallet and counted the money without question. Martha watched the new bills, some still stuck together. Clearly he wasn't used to handling cash. "But how will you take them?" she asked, looking at the sedan. "Not even 10 will fit in the trunk." "Abigail, how about we choose some to take, and the rest the lady can sell to other customers?" suggested the father, trying to find a practical solution. The girl pouted and crossed her little arms. "No, Daddy. You promised we would help people like Mommy used to. The lady is working in the sun to earn money. Buy them all." Martha noticed the shadow that crossed the man's face when his daughter mentioned her mother. "A widower," she quickly concluded. And by the way the girl spoke, the loss was recent. "Look, you don't have to buy them all," said Martha, trying to ease the situation. "Your daughter has a good heart, but I don't accept charity." "It's not charity," replied the man, handing over the $200. "It's honest commerce. My daughter asked, I bought. What we do with the fruit afterwards is our problem." Martha took the money, but something about that situation bothered her deeply. She was used to earning every penny through effort, not receiving favors disguised as purchases. "At least let me deliver them to your house," she offered. "I know a young man who has a pickup truck. It's not fair for you to pay and not take the goods." "That's not necessary, Mrs. Martha Harrison." "Pleasure, Martha. I'm Thomas Sterling, and this is my daughter Abigail." The girl waved from the window, smiling broadly. She had the bluest eyes Martha had ever seen, golden hair that shone in the sun like pure gold. "Hi, Miss Martha. Do you have children?" "Yes, I do, sweetie. A boy named Caleb." "Is he in school?" Martha hesitated. Caleb wasn't at school at that time because he had spent the morning at the clinic doing physical therapy, but he didn't want to go into details with strangers, no matter how nice they seemed. "He's taking care of some things," she replied vaguely. Thomas noticed her discomfort and called his daughter back into the car. "Let's go, Abigail. We're already late for lunch." "Bye, Miss Martha," the girl waved excitedly. "We'll come back to buy more fruit." The black car drove off, leaving a cloud of dust and Martha alone with her watermelons and $200 in her hand. She looked around, as if expecting someone to appear and explain what had just happened. $200 represented 2 weeks of hard work. With that money, she could pay for Caleb's physical therapy sessions for the entire month and still have some left over for medicine. But the feeling of having received disguised charity bothered her more than it should have. She put the money in the fanny pack she wore tied around her waist and began to put the watermelons back on the wooden cart. She didn't know why, but she was sure she would see that family again. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next day, Martha arrived at the sales spot earlier than usual. She had slept poorly, troubled by the events of the previous day. Part of her hoped the black car would appear again. Another part hoped it wouldn't. As she was organizing the fruit, she found something strange among the empty boxes she used as a base for the cart. A brown envelope, folded and discreetly tucked between two wooden planks. She opened it carefully and found another $300 in $50 bills, along with a handwritten note in feminine handwriting. For the boy who needs help, from a mother who understands. Martha felt her blood boil. How dare they investigate her life? How did they know about Caleb? And most importantly, who had written that note if Thomas was a widower? She put the money back in the envelope and placed it all in her fanny pack. She didn't yet know what she would do, but one thing was certain: no one was going to turn her into an object of pity. She spent the whole day selling watermelons with that weight on her conscience. Every customer who stopped reminded her that there were people out there who saw her as a poor thing in need of charity. The feeling was awful. In the late afternoon, as she was already gathering the leftover fruit, she spotted the black car approaching. This time, Thomas was alone. "Good afternoon, Martha," he greeted, getting out of the car. "Good afternoon," she replied curtly, continuing to organize the watermelons. "How were sales today?" "Normal." Thomas noticed her coldness and moved closer. "Did something happen? You seem upset." Martha stopped what she was doing and looked directly at him. "Who came here last night?" "What do you mean?" "Someone left an envelope with money hidden in my boxes, with a note signed by a woman talking about my son." Thomas's eyes widened, genuinely surprised. "Martha, I swear I don't know what you're talking about. After we left here yesterday, we went straight home. We didn't come back." "Then who was it?" she insisted, taking the envelope from her fanny pack. "And how did that person know about my boy?" Thomas read the note and his expression changed completely. His shoulders slumped, his face turned pale. "Do you recognize the handwriting?" asked Martha, watching his reaction. It's my wife's," he murmured. "But that's impossible. She passed away 8 months ago." Martha felt a shiver run down her spine. She didn't believe in ghosts or anything like that, but the coincidence was too disturbing. "Are you sure it's her handwriting?" "Absolutely. She always wrote notes like this, with that round handwriting. But I swear I don't understand how—" Thomas stopped talking and ran his hand through his hair, thoughtful. "Abigail," he said after a moment, "last night she asked about you, wanted to know if you had problems, if you needed help. I said it was none of our business, but she insisted so much that I ended up telling her you mentioned having a son." "And?" "She went to her room and stayed there alone for a long time. I thought she was playing, but now what?" "Abigail learned to write by copying her mother's letters. She has a notebook full of notes that Evelyn left for her. She practices her handwriting by copying the words." Martha looked at the note again. A 6-year-old girl who had learned to write by copying messages from her deceased mother. The situation was touching and sad at the same time. "Did she come here alone?" "Impossible. Abigail doesn't leave the house without me, but—" Thomas hesitated. "Our housekeeper, Mrs. Beverly, has the spare car key. If Abigail convinced her somehow—" "You need to talk to your daughter," said Martha, handing back the envelope. "And take this money back. I won't accept it." "Martha, please. If it really was Abigail, she did it from the heart. It's not charity, it's what? A child playing at helping the poor." Thomas fell silent. Martha realized she had been too harsh, but she couldn't contain her frustration. "I'm sorry," she said more quietly. "I didn't mean to be rude. It's just that I've been working since I was 12. I've never needed anything from anyone, and now your son needs things that honest work can't pay for quickly enough," Thomas completed gently. Martha stared at him, surprised by his understanding. How do you know? Because I've been through it. When Evelyn got sick, I discovered there are problems that money can solve, but that sometimes it arrives too late. Abigail was born premature, spent months in the NICU. I understand the feeling of helplessness. And how did you deal with it? I accepted help from those who offered it, swallowed my pride and thought my family was more important than my vanity. Thomas's words hit Martha squarely. She knew he was right, but decades of independence weren't easily undone. "Let me think," she said finally. "But I want to talk to your daughter first. I need to understand why she did this." "All right. Do you want to come to the house now? Abigail will be happy to see you." "Now? Why not? You're done with your work for the day, I'm free, and my daughter needs to learn a few things about helping people the right way." Martha looked at the almost empty wooden cart, then at the man in front of her. There was sincerity in his eyes, none of the arrogance she would expect to find in someone so wealthy. "Okay," she agreed, "but I'll take my motorcycle. I don't want to depend on a ride." "Of course. Our house is in the Buckhead Gated Estates on the way out of town. Do you know it?" Martha knew it by sight. It was where the doctors, lawyers, and business people of the area lived. She had never been inside, but she knew the houses were huge and expensive. "I know it. Give me the address and I'll follow you." Thomas wrote the address on a piece of paper and handed it to her. Martha put it in her fanny pack along with the controversial envelope. "Martha," Thomas called before getting into his car, "thank you for giving this chance. Abigail needs to learn that good intentions aren't always enough, and I need to learn that accepting help doesn't make me less independent," she admitted, surprised by her own honesty. Thomas smiled for the first time since they'd met. It was a sad smile, but genuine. "See you at the house, then." Martha followed the black car through the familiar streets of town until they reached the imposing gate of the gated community. The security guard greeted Thomas familiarly and allowed both vehicles to enter. The houses were even more impressive up close. Impeccable gardens, electronic gates, imported cars in open garages. Martha felt out of place in that environment, but kept her posture straight and her chin up. Thomas's house was at the end of the street, a two-story construction with lots of glass and stone. There was a well-kept front garden and a small fountain that emitted a relaxing sound of running water. "What a beautiful house," commented Martha, trying to sound natural. "Evelyn chose the design. She was an architect, had good taste for these things." "And you, what do you do for work?" "I have a logistics company. Nothing too interesting, but it pays the bills." Martha almost laughed. Paying the bills with a logistics company that allowed buying a house like that and a car like that was very different from her concept of paying the bills. "Daddy!" Abigail appeared running at the door, still wearing her school uniform. "Miss Martha came to visit us." "Hi, sweetie," Martha waved, immediately feeling more at ease with the girl's enthusiasm. "Come in, Auntie. I want to show you my room and my toys." Thomas gestured for Martha to precede him into the entrance. The inside of the house was even more impressive. High ceilings, hardwood furniture, artwork on the walls. "Mrs. Beverly," called Thomas, "please prepare a snack for our guest." A black woman in her 60s appeared from the kitchen, smiling warmly. "How nice to have company. This girl hasn't stopped talking about you since yesterday." Martha felt her face grow warm. So Abigail had really talked about her. "Mrs. Beverly," said Thomas in a more serious tone, "I need to speak with you later, about last night." The housekeeper's expression changed immediately. She exchanged a quick glance with Abigail, who pretended not to notice. "Come on, Miss Martha." The girl pulled Martha by the hand. "I want to show you the letters my mum left for me." Thomas and Martha exchanged a meaningful look. That was exactly what they needed to talk about. Abigail's room was a little girl's dream. Pink walls, a canopy bed, shelves full of dolls and stuffed animals. But what caught Martha's attention was a small table in the corner, covered with papers and colored pencils. "This is where I write," explained Abigail, pulling out a chair for Martha to sit. "Look!" She opened a shoebox full of handwritten letters, some on letterhead paper, others on colored sheets, all with the same round handwriting Martha had seen in the note. "My mom wrote letters to me since I was born," said Abigail, carefully flipping through the papers. "She said that when she wasn't here anymore, I could read the letters and remember her." Martha felt her chest tighten. Evelyn had planned her own absence, leaving pieces of herself to comfort her daughter. "And you learned to write by copying your mum's letters?" Look, I already know how to write almost just like her." Abigail took a blank sheet and began to write with her tongue sticking out, concentrating. Martha watched the girl form each letter carefully, perfectly imitating her mother's handwriting. "Abigail is a special girl who will always help people." "Very good," praised Martha. "You write just like your mum." "That's why I wrote the note for you," said Abigail, lowering her voice as if telling a secret. "I wanted to help, but Daddy said it wasn't our business, so I thought, what if it was Mom writing? She always helped everyone." "And how did you get the note all the way there?" "Grandma Beverly helped me," admitted Abigail, looking at the closed door. "I said Mom appeared in my dream and asked me to help a lady who sells fruit on the highway. Grandma Beverly got emotional and said Mom was sending a sign." Martha understood the whole situation. Abigail had innocently manipulated the maid, who was probably still mourning her employer, and wanted to believe in signs from beyond. "Abigail," said Martha, pulling the chair closer, "you know lying isn't right?" "But I didn't lie," protested the girl. "I did dream about Mommy. She was smiling and talking about helping people. I just interpreted the dream." Martha couldn't suppress a smile. The girl had her own logic, a bit twisted, but well-intentioned. "And you asked Mrs. Beverly to take you there?" "I said I needed to take a gift to a friend of Mommy's. Grandma Beverly didn't want to, but I insisted so much that she finally agreed. But I asked her not to tell Daddy because it was a surprise." And where did the money come from?" Abigail hesitated for the first time. "From my piggy bank," she murmured. "I've been saving my allowance for months to buy a special gift for Daddy, but I thought Mommy would like it more if I helped someone." Martha's heart tightened even more. The girl had used her personal savings, saved so lovingly, to help a stranger. "Sweetheart," said Martha, taking Abigail's small hands, "what you did was very beautiful, but it wasn't the right way." "Why?" "Because when we want to help someone, we need to ask if the person wants to be helped, and we need to do it in a way that doesn't make them feel bad." "But you were working in the hot sun. It must be tiring." "It really is tiring, but it's my job and I like my job. I feel useful and independent." Abigail became thoughtful for a moment. "Like Mommy, she always said working was important to feel useful." "Exactly like your Mommy." "So I did it wrong." "You did it with a good heart, but the wrong way. Want to know how you can really help me?" Abigail nodded energetically. "Introduce me to more people who might buy my watermelons. That way I earn money by working, not by getting a gift." "I can do that. I know a ton of people." The bedroom door opened and Thomas entered, followed by Mrs. Beverly, who carried a tray with a snack. "How's the conversation going?" asked Thomas. "Very enlightening," replied Martha. "Abigail understands the difference between helping and giving alms. It's true, Daddy. Miss Martha taught me that working is important to feel useful, just like Mommy used to say." Thomas smiled with pride for his daughter and relief that the situation had been resolved well. "And Mrs. Beverly," said Martha, looking at the maid, "thank you for taking such good care of this girl. I know you did it thinking you were doing good." "Oh, Mrs. Martha," sighed Mrs. Beverly. "This girl convinced me it was something from her late employer. How could I deny something like that?" "You didn't do anything wrong," reassured Martha. "But next time Abigail has one of these inspirations, it's better to talk to her father first." "Don't worry, I've learned my lesson now." Everyone laughed, and the tension that had hung over the situation finally dissipated. "So," said Thomas, "what do we do about the money?" Martha looked at Abigail, who waited anxiously for the decision. "I'll accept it," she finally said. "But not as charity, as a loan. I'll use it to pay for my son's treatment, and I'll pay it back when I can." "You don't have to pay it back, Miss Martha," protested Abigail. "It was a gift." "We give gifts on birthdays or at Christmas," explained Martha. "When someone really needs help, we lend. And when the person gets back on their feet, they pay it back so the money can help someone else. Abigail thought about the explanation and nodded, satisfied. So the money helps more people. Exactly. Then it's right. But do you promise you'll use it so your boy gets better? I promise. And do you promise you'll come back to have a snack with us? Martha looked at Thomas, who nodded discreetly. I promise that too. Abigail clapped her hands with joy and ran to hug Martha, who returned the affection with emotion. Now tell me about your boy, asked Abigail. What is he like? Does he like to play? He's about your age, but a little older. He was born with a little problem in his legs, but he's getting better with treatment. Can he come play with me? Of course, he'll love to meet you. Thomas watched the interaction between his daughter and Martha with emotion. For months, Abigail hadn't shown such genuine joy. Martha's presence was doing her good. How about we schedule a meeting so Caleb can meet Abigail, suggested Thomas. We can have a picnic at the city park this weekend. That's a great idea, agreed Martha. Caleb needs to spend more time with other children. Yes, celebrated Abigail. I'm going to have a new friend. Mrs. Beverly, who was watching everything with a maternal smile, approached Martha. Mrs. Martha, you have a way with children. Abigail hasn't been this excited in a long time. She's a special girl. Anyone would be charmed by her. It's true, but since her mother passed, she became more withdrawn. Only with you has she gone back to being her old self. Martha noticed that Thomas became thoughtful with the maid's comment. It was evident that both father and daughter were still suffering from the recent loss. Mrs. Beverly, said Thomas, how about preparing a special snack for us to take to the picnic on Saturday? Absolutely. I'll make those sandwiches Abigail likes and some cold sweet peach tea. And I'll bring watermelons for dessert, offered Martha, the best ones I can find. It's going to be the best picnic in the world, declared Abigail, jumping for joy. Martha stayed at the house for another hour, talking with the family and getting to know their stories better. Thomas said he had inherited the company from his father and expanded the business to several towns in the interior. Evelyn had been his partner in everything, handling the administrative side while raising Abigail. She was incredible, said Thomas, flipping through a photo album. She managed to work, be a mother, and still find time for social projects. She always said that those lucky enough to have abundance should share with those in need. That's why Abigail is so generous, commented Martha. She learned by example. Yes. Sometimes I wonder if I'm raising her right by myself. Evelyn had a sensitivity that I don't have. You're doing a good job, assured Martha. Abigail is polite, affectionate, and has beautiful values. The rest is learned over time. Thank you. I needed to hear that. When she finally said goodbye, Martha felt like part of that unlikely family. Thomas's material wealth contrasted with her own simplicity, but there was a genuine connection that transcended social differences. Back home, Martha found Caleb doing physical therapy in the living room with the volunteer therapist who came twice a week. Hi, Mom, called the boy, interrupting the exercise. How was work today? Different, answered Martha, kissing her son's forehead. I met new people, and I have a surprise for you. What kind of surprise? On Saturday we're going to have a picnic at the park, and you're going to meet a girl your age. Really? Caleb's eyes lit up. Is she nice? Very nice. And she has blue eyes like a summer sky. And she won't think it's weird that I walk differently? Martha knelt in front of her son and held his face with her hands. My son, you are the smartest and most affectionate child there is. Anyone who can't see that is the one with the problem, not you. Caleb smiled and went back to his exercises with more enthusiasm. Martha took the opportunity to tell the physical therapist about the day's events, omitting only the financial part. What an interesting story, commented the physical therapist. It's good for Caleb to spend time with other children. It will help his self-esteem. That's what I think too. And the family seems like good people from what you've said. They are special people, different from what I imagined I'd find among the city's wealthy. That night, after Caleb fell asleep, Martha sat at the small kitchen table to organize her finances. With Abigail's money, she could pay for 3 months of private physical therapy and still buy the medications that the health insurance didn't cover. For the first time in months, she slept peacefully, without worrying about whether she could maintain her son's treatment. Saturday arrived with strong sun and a blue sky, perfect for a picnic. Martha woke up early, made simple sandwiches, and set aside the best watermelons she had managed to get during the week. Caleb had been anxious since he woke up, choosing his outfit 3 times and asking every 5 minutes if it was time to leave yet. "Easy, son," Martha laughed. "It's only 8 in the morning. The picnic is at 10. "But what if the girl doesn't like me?" "Impossible. You'll see." They arrived at the city park promptly at 10 o'clock. It was a spacious, well-kept place with many trees, playground equipment, and picnic tables. Martha spotted Thomas and Abigail from a distance, near a table under a large leafy tree. "There they are," she pointed out to Caleb. "The girl with the blue eyes?" "Exactly." Abigail saw them approaching and ran to meet them, followed by her father. "Hi, Ms. Martha. Hi, Caleb." Caleb was shy at first, hiding a little behind his mother. Abigail noticed and approached slowly. "Hi, Caleb. I'm Abigail. Can I call you Cal?" The boy smiled and nodded. "Cal is a cool nickname," said Abigail. "Want to see the toys I brought?" She showed a bag full of games, dolls, and toy cars. "Do you like cars?" asked Caleb, interested. "I do, especially race cars. Do you like them too? They're my favorite toy." Within minutes, the 2 children were engrossed in playing on the grass, as if they were old friends. Thomas and Martha watched, pleased. "Abigail makes friends easily," commented Thomas. "But with Caleb it was special. She talked about him all week." Caleb was anxious too. He doesn't have many friends his own age. "Because of the physical limitations?" "Partly, but also because I'm a bit too overprotective. I'm afraid someone might treat him poorly." "I understand perfectly. After we lost Evelyn, I get apprehensive about everything involving Abigail." They set out the snacks on the table and called the children. Abigail had brought gourmet sandwiches, natural juices, and fruits cut into fun shapes. Martha contributed with her homemade sandwiches and the promised watermelons. "Wow, what a sweet watermelon," praised Abigail after the first bite. "It's different from the ones we buy at the market." "That's because these come straight from the grower," explained Martha. "They're picked at the right time and don't sit in a warehouse for days." "Ms. Martha knows everything about fruits," said Caleb proudly. "She knows how to pick the sweetest watermelon just by looking at it." "Really? How?" Martha laughed at the girl's curiosity and began explaining the secrets of the fruit trade. Thomas listened with interest, asking smart questions about logistics and distribution. "I'd never thought about the complexity behind something as simple as selling fruit," admitted Thomas. "You have market knowledge that a lot of people with MBAs don't have." "It's the school of life," said Martha without pretension. "When you need to survive on something, you learn all the details quickly." After lunch, the children went back to playing while the adults talked in the shade. Thomas Sterling shared about the difficulties of running the company alone and taking care of Abigail at the same time. "Sometimes I feel like I'm failing at both roles," he confessed. "At the company, I make decisions thinking about Abby. At home, I'm always worried about work." "It's normal to feel that way," comforted Martha Harrison. "I go through the same thing. I'm torn between working more to earn more money and spending more time with Caleb. How do you manage to balance it?" "I set priorities. Caleb always comes first. Money we can get in other ways, but lost time with your child never comes back." Thomas grew thoughtful at the answer. "Evelyn always used to tell me that, but sometimes it's hard to turn down business opportunities." "And sometimes it's hard to turn down overtime or weekend work," agreed Martha. "But when I see Caleb smiling like today, I know I made the right choices." They watched the children playing a modified game of tag, where Abby ran slowly so Caleb could keep up. It was touching to see the girl's sensitivity in including her friend without making him feel different. "Abby has a special heart," observed Martha. "She takes after her mother. Evelyn had that same sensitivity with people who were different. And you? What was it like with Evelyn?" Thomas smiled nostalgically. "We met in college. She studied architecture, I studied business. She was the prettiest and smartest girl in class, and all the boys were in love with her. And she chose you." Believe it or not, yes. She said I was the only one who made her truly laugh. And were you happy? Very. 15 years of marriage that felt like 5. We never had a serious fight. We never went a day without talking about everything. And what was it like when she got sick? Thomas was silent for a moment, watching Abby play. Pancreatic cancer, he finally said. From diagnosis to the end was only 4 months. Very fast. Martha felt her chest tighten. Losing someone so important so suddenly must have been devastating. And how did Abby handle it? Better than me, to be honest. Evelyn talked to her a lot, explained that sometimes people have to leave before we'd like them to. She left letters, recorded videos, prepared Abby as best she could. She seems to have been an extraordinary mother. She was, and she left an incredible legacy in our daughter. Martha watched Abby helping Caleb climb the slide, holding his hand carefully to give him security. She really did, she agreed. The picnic lasted the whole afternoon. The children played until they were tired, had lunch together, and still had time for a nap on the grass, lying side by side like siblings. Thomas and Martha took advantage of the quiet moment to learn more about each other's story. She told him about the difficult pregnancy, Caleb's premature birth, and the challenges of raising him alone. And his father? He left when he found out about the problems, said he hadn't signed up to be a father to a defective child. Thomas made a disapproving face. What a terrible person. At first I suffered a lot, but later I understood it was for the best. Caleb deserves to be surrounded only by people who truly love him. And you managed alone? With a lot of struggle. I worked everywhere, cleaning, kitchen, sales. I took whatever came up, as long as I could make time to take care of Caleb. Until you got to the watermelons? The watermelons were an idea from a friend who sells vegetables at the market. She said I had a knack for commerce and that fruit by the side of the road made money. She was right. And can you live well just from that? You can survive. Living well is relative. Thomas understood the difference. Surviving was paying the basic bills. Living well included leisure, security, plans for the future. Have you ever thought about expanding the business? How so? Having a fixed location, hiring help, diversifying products. You have knowledge and experience. Martha had never considered this possibility. She always thought small, focused only on getting through one day at a time. I never thought about that. Would it be possible? Of course, with planning and initial investment, any business can grow. But I don't understand anything about business planning. I only know how to sell watermelons. And I don't understand anything about picking sweet watermelons, but I learned today. We learn what we need to. The idea kept hammering in Martha's head for the rest of the afternoon. Was it possible to dream bigger? Could she aspire to something beyond mere survival? When the sun began to set, it was time to say goodbye. The children protested, wanting to prolong the visit. "When will we see each other again?" asked Abigail, hugging Caleb. "Soon, very soon," promised Martha. "How about you come visit me next week?" "Can we, Daddy?" pleaded Abigail. "Of course. Where do you live?" Martha gave the address, a simple neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. Thomas noted it without showing any embarrassment about the difference between the neighborhoods. "Shall we go on Wednesday after school?" suggested Thomas. "Perfect. I'll prepare a tasty snack." The children said goodbye with promises of future playdates. Thomas helped Martha load her things onto the motorcycle. "Thank you for a wonderful day," he said. "Abigail hasn't been this happy in months." Caleb loved it too. "Thank you for including us. I hope we can do this more often." "Me too." There was a moment of awkward silence, as if both wanted to say something more but didn't quite know what. "See you Wednesday, then," Thomas finally said. "See you Wednesday." On the way home, Caleb wouldn't stop talking about Abigail and all the plans they had made together. "Mom, Abby is so cool, she wasn't weird with me or anything. I told you it was impossible for someone not to like you. And her dad is cool too. It seems like he likes you." Martha almost lost control of the motorcycle at her son's unexpected comment. "What do you mean, Caleb?" "Oh, Mom, I saw how he looked at you when you were talking, just like in the movies when a man likes a woman." Don't talk nonsense, son. We're just friends. Okay, said Caleb with a mischievous smile. Just friends. Martha arrived home with her mind in a whirl. She had liked Thomas very much as a person, but she didn't want to get her hopes up about things that probably only existed in her 8-year-old son's imagination. Still, she found herself choosing her clothes more carefully on Wednesday morning. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Wednesday arrived full of anticipation. Martha woke up earlier, cleaned the entire house, and baked a carrot cake she could make with her eyes closed. Caleb was as anxious as she was, asking every half hour if it was time for the visit yet. Calm down, my son, Martha laughed. They'll arrive at 4. It's only 2 in the afternoon. But what if they get lost? Our neighborhood is a bit tricky for people who don't know it. Thomas has GPS in his car. Everything will be fine. Martha's house was simple but cozy. 2 small bedrooms, a combined living room and kitchen, a small bathroom, and a laundry area in the back. Everything was very clean and tidy, with old but well-kept furniture. At 4 o'clock sharp, Thomas's black car appeared on the dirt road, drawing the attention of curious neighbors. Abigail jumped out of the car before it had even fully parked. "Cal, Miss Martha!" she shouted, running to hug them. Thomas got out more slowly, observing the neighborhood without hurry. Simple houses, unpaved streets, children playing on the sidewalk. It was a world completely different from his, but he showed no discomfort. "What a wonderful smell," commented Abigail, breathing in the air. "Is there cake?" "Yes, dear," replied Martha. "Warm carrot cake." "My favorite." Thomas greeted Martha with a kiss on the cheek, a gesture that made her blush slightly. "Sorry I'm late. I stopped on the way to buy a few things," he said, grabbing bags from the trunk. "You didn't need to bring anything," protested Martha. "It's just some drinks and some fruit. Nothing much." But when Martha looked inside the bags, she saw it wasn't nothing much. Imported drinks, fine fruits, French sweets that cost more than her weekly income. "Thomas, this must have cost a fortune." "Don't worry about it. It's for the kids to enjoy." Martha took a deep breath and decided to accept without protest. She was learning that his generosity didn't come from pity, but from genuine affection. Come in. Make yourself at home." Thomas entered the little house and looked around with real interest. The walls had cheap pictures, but chosen with taste. The television was small and old, but it worked. The furniture was old, but shone from being so clean. "What a cozy home," he commented sincerely. "It feels like a real home." "It's tiny, but it's ours," said Martha with pride. "Size doesn't define a home, heart does." Abigail had already pulled Caleb into his room, eager to see her friend's toys. Thomas and Martha stayed in the living room, a little awkwardly. "Coffee?" offered Martha. "Please." She went to the kitchen and Thomas followed her, observing every detail of her routine. The caring way she prepared the coffee, the care in choosing the best cups, the homely way of arranging everything on a little tray. "Have you lived here long?" 5 years. Before that, I lived in an even smaller apartment, but when Caleb started growing, we needed more space." "And how did you manage to buy it?" "Actually, I'm still paying for it. I got a loan from the bank for low-income people. It's another 15 years of payments." Thomas did the math in his head. 15 years of installments for a 2-bedroom house he could pay for in cash without feeling it in his budget. "It must be hard work keeping everything up." "It is, but it's worth it. It's our little corner." They returned to the living room with the coffee. The children's laughter came from the room, indicating the fun was guaranteed. "Thomas," said Martha after a sip of coffee, "can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Why are you being so kind to us? Not that I don't like it, but our reality is very different from yours." Thomas was thoughtful for a moment, stirring the sugar in his coffee unnecessarily. "You know, since Evelyn died, my life turned into a dull routine. Work, Abigail, work, Abigail. Always in the same places, with the same people. And then, when I met you, I saw someone who faces difficulties I can't even imagine. but with a dignity and strength I admire. And Abigail, she started smiling for real again after she met you. Caleb got happier too. So we're a good combination, don't you think? Martha smiled, feeling more at ease. I think so. Besides, continued Thomas, talking to you does me good. You have a life wisdom I don't have. What wisdom? Laughed Martha. I barely finished high school. Wisdom doesn't come from a diploma, Martha. It comes from experience, from overcoming, from knowing life for real. And you? Don't you know life for real? I know a life protected by money. When a problem comes up, I pay to solve it. You have to be creative, fight, find solutions that cost nothing but effort. Martha had never thought of it that way. For her, the difficulties were just annoying obstacles to overcome. She didn't know they could be seen as a source of wisdom. Can I ask you a question too? Said Thomas. Of course. Have you never thought about marrying again, having someone to share the responsibilities? The question caught Martha off guard. She choked a little on her coffee. I've never had time to think about that, she answered honestly. My life has always revolved around Caleb and work. A relationship would be one more complication. Would it really? I think so. A man demands attention, care, and what if he doesn't accept my son? What if he wants to change our routine? What if it's someone who loves your son as much as you do? What if he wants to make your routine easier instead of complicating it? Martha looked at him, trying to decipher where this conversation was going. Why these questions? Thomas hesitated, seeming to choose his words carefully. Because I find myself thinking about you more than I should, and I don't know if it's just gratitude for helping Abby or if it's something more. Martha's heart raced. She wasn't expecting such a direct statement. Thomas, sorry if I was too direct, but after I lost Evelyn, I learned that life is too short not to be honest about feelings. I've been thinking about you too, admitted Martha, surprising herself. But our situation is complicated. Because of the social difference. Because of everything. I sell watermelons by the side of the road. You're a businessman. I live in a small financed house. You have a mansion. How could that work? The same way any relationship works, with affection, patience, and a desire to be together. But what will people think? What people? Your friends, your family, Abby's classmates' parents. Thomas leaned forward, taking Martha's hand. Martha, I was married to a wonderful woman for 15 years. I know quality when I see it, and you have quality in spades. You really think so? I'm sure. Abby adores you, and my daughter has an incredible instinct for people. Caleb is polite and affectionate, proof that you're an exceptional mother. And you make me want to be a better person. Martha's eyes filled with tears. It had been so long since anyone said nice things to her. What if it doesn't work out? She asked, her voice choked. What if it does? Countered Thomas. It's worth trying to find out, don't you think? Before Martha could answer, the children came running into the room. Mom, can I show my drawings to Anna? Asked Caleb. Of course, my son. Abby approached Martha with a paper in her hand. Ms. Martha, Thee showed me the drawing he made of you, look. It was a colourful drawing showing Martha on the watermelon cart, with a huge smile on her face and the sun shining above her head. How beautiful, Thee, exclaimed Martha, moved. I'll keep it forever. Now I'm going to draw you too, declared Abby. You and Thee together. She sat on the living room floor and began to draw with total concentration. Thomas and Martha took the opportunity to exchange meaningful glances. Daddy, said Abby without looking up from the paper, do you like Miss Martha? Thomas almost choked on his coffee. Of course, Anna. Why do you ask? Because you keep looking at her the same way you looked at Mommy in the old pictures. Martha turned red, and Thomas didn't know how to respond. And you, Miss Martha, continued Abby, still drawing, do you like my daddy? Well, he's a very good person, stammered Martha. Then you can date, announced Abby, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. Then we can be a family. Caleb clapped excitedly. That's true. Then Anna can be my sister. The two children began excitedly planning what it would be like to have a big family, while the adults looked at each other, not knowing whether to laugh or hide in embarrassment. "I think we've been discovered," murmured Thomas to Martha. "It seems so," she laughed softly. Abby finished the drawing and proudly showed it. Thomas, Martha, her and Caleb holding hands in front of a house, all smiling. "There, our family." Thomas took the drawing and looked at it with emotion. The image represented exactly what he was feeling, but he didn't know how to express it. "It's beautiful, Princess. Can I keep it?" "Of course. It's so you remember we have to stay together." The afternoon flew by with play, conversation, and the natural bond that was forming between them. When it was time to leave, nobody wanted to say goodbye. "Will we see each other again tomorrow?" asked Abigail. "Tomorrow I have to work, sweetie," explained Martha. "Can I come along? I want to see how you sell watermelons." Thomas intervened. "Abby, we can't get in the way of Ms. Martha's work." "It's no trouble at all," said Martha, surprising everyone. "If you'd like, you can keep me company. It's even good for business to have a pretty girl helping to sell." "Really?" Abigail jumped for joy. "Really? How about you come by around 2 in the afternoon? I'll have sold most of it by then and can give you more attention." "Perfect," agreed Thomas. "And we can take Abby on the weekend to see what the real work is like, if you don't mind. I'd love the company." When they finally said goodbye, Thomas held Martha's hand longer than necessary. "Thank you for the wonderful afternoon," he said. "And thank you for being so open with Abigail." "Thank you for accepting me as I am," she replied. "That's not a favor, Martha, it's a privilege." Abigail, who was watching everything from the car window, shouted, "Daddy, give Miss Martha a good-night kiss." Both Thomas and Martha turned red, but he leaned in and gave her a gentle kiss on the forehead. "Good night, Martha." "Good night, Thomas." The car drove away, leaving Martha standing on the sidewalk, her hand touching her forehead where she could still feel the warmth of his lips. "Mom," said Caleb, tugging her shirt, "now I'm sure he likes you." "And why are you sure?" "Because a man only kisses a woman's forehead when he really likes her. I saw it in a movie once." Martha laughed at her son's precocious wisdom, and they went inside together, both dreaming of the possibilities the future might bring. That night, Martha took a long time to fall asleep, replaying every moment of the afternoon in her mind. Thomas's declaration, the children's plans, the feeling of the kiss on her forehead. Everything seemed too good to be true. But for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to dream of something beyond survival. The next day, she got ready for work with special care. She chose her nicest shirt, tied her hair more carefully, and even put on a light lipstick she hadn't worn in months. "Wow, Mom," Caleb commented at breakfast. "You look pretty today." "Thank you, son." "Is it because of Thomas and Abby?" "It's because I'm feeling good about myself," she answered honestly. And it was true. Thomas's attention and affection were doing wonders for her self-esteem, which had been low for so long. She arrived at the sales spot in high spirits, humming softly as she arranged the watermelons. Her regular customers noticed her joy and made positive comments. "Such a good mood today, Martha," said Mrs. Rose, a vendor who passed by every day on her way home. "Did something good happen?" "Life is getting better, Mrs. Rose. Sometimes you meet special people when you least expect it." "Ah, there's a man in the picture," laughed Mrs. Rose. "It was about time you found someone, girl." Martha neither confirmed nor denied it, just smiled mysteriously. At 2 o'clock sharp, Thomas's car appeared. Abigail got out running as always, but this time she brought something new. A small handmade sign with colorful letters. "Look what I made, Miss Martha," she showed proudly. "Aunt Martha's sweet watermelons, the best in the region." "How adorable," exclaimed Martha, touched. "Where should we put it?" "Right here on the front of the cart, so everyone can see." Thomas stepped out of the car carrying a small wooden base. "I made a stand so the sign doesn't blow away in the wind," he explained. They fixed the little sign to the wooden cart, and the result looked charming. Abigail was radiant, seeing her creation displayed. "Now you're going to sell so much more," she declared confidently. "Absolutely. With advertising like this, how could we not sell?" Thomas watched the interaction between his daughter and Martha with growing emotion. Seeing Abigail so involved and affectionate with someone new was comforting. "So, how were sales this morning?" he asked. "Very good. I've already sold more than half." And in the afternoon? How is it usually? Slower. Most customers come by in the morning on their way to work. In the afternoon, only a few curious people show up. Then it's the perfect time for Abigail to learn the business, laughed Thomas. Exactly. Abigail took her role as helper very seriously. She organized the watermelons by size, cleaned the ones with dirt on them, and even tried to convince the few customers who appeared to take extra fruit. "Sir, take 2, she said to each buyer. 1 to eat today and another for tomorrow." Her spontaneity and friendliness worked. Everyone who stopped ended up buying more watermelons than they intended. "Abigail, you have a talent for sales," praised Martha. "Really? Can I work here when I grow up?" "Of course. But then you'll have to wake up early and stay in the hot sun." "No problem, I'll wear sunscreen." Thomas laughed at his daughter's practicality. "And can I be your partner?" continued Abigail. "Like Daddy has partners at his company?" Martha exchanged an amused look with Thomas. "Yes, you can. What kind of partnership are you proposing?" Abigail became thoughtful, as if she were really planning a serious business. "I can make the signs and help sell on weekends. You teach me everything about watermelons. And we split the profit 50-50. 50-50, Martha exclaimed in surprise, "but I'll be doing most of the work." "That's true," agreed Abigail after thinking. "So 70 for you and 30 for me?" Thomas almost choked laughing. His 6-year-old daughter was negotiating like an experienced executive. "Deal," said Martha, extending her hand for Abigail to shake. "But first you need to finish elementary school." "Obviously. Serious business only after studies." They spent the afternoon between play and work, creating a pleasant routine of companionship. Thomas helped carry boxes, Abigail organized products, and Martha taught the secrets of the fruit trade. When the sun began to get stronger, Thomas insisted that Martha rest a bit in the shade while he took care of the sales. "You don't have to do that," she protested. "I want to. Let me feel useful for a few minutes." It was interesting to see Thomas interacting with customers. He was polite and kind, but clearly out of his element. He accepted the first price each person offered, without trying to negotiate. "Thomas," Martha called after the third customer. "Come here for a minute." She pulled him aside and explained quietly, "You're selling too cheap. You have to haggle a little, otherwise the customer thinks the fruit is no good." "Really? I thought it was rude to bargain." "In street vending, it's part of the ritual. The customer offers less. You pretend you can't. They insist. You give a small discount. Everyone is satisfied." "Wow, it's more complex than I imagined." "It's like any human relationship. You have to know the rules of the game." Thomas went back to the sales, applying Martha's tips. On the first try, he was still too easy to convince, but he gradually got the hang of it. "Am I improving?" he asked eagerly after closing a sale. "Very much. You just need to harden your heart a little more when bargaining." "It's hard. I can't say no to anyone." "That's why you're a good person," said Martha, touching his arm affectionately. The touch was brief, but enough for both to feel an electricity in the air. Abigail, busy organizing watermelons, didn't notice the moment of romantic tension between the adults. In the late afternoon, when they gathered the last fruits, they tallied the day's earnings. With the help of Abigail's sign and the girls' charm, sales had been exceptional. "We sold everything," celebrated Martha. "I've never cleared out stock on a Thursday." "It's the power of our partnership," declared Abigail proudly. "Tomorrow I'll have to buy twice the merchandise," laughed Martha. "And on Saturday, can we come help again?" asked Abigail. Martha looked at Thomas, who nodded excitedly. "Of course. Let's make this a family business." The phrase came out naturally, but carried a special weight. Thomas and Martha looked at each other, both thinking the same thing. They really were becoming a family. "Miss Martha," said Abigail on the way to the car, "can I sleep over at your house one day?" "Abigail," scolded Thomas, embarrassed, "that's not how you ask for things." "But why? Miss Martha is our friend, and I want to play more with Caleb." "She can," said Martha, touching Thomas's shoulder. "Any weekend you want." "Really?" Abigail jumped for joy. "How about tomorrow? It's Friday." Thomas hesitated. Letting his daughter sleep away from home for the first time since his wife's death was a big step. "I don't know, Abby. You've never slept away from home. But I want to. Please, Daddy. Martha sensed his anguish and gently interjected, How about we start slow? Abby can come over for dinner with us tomorrow and leave later. If she feels comfortable, next time she can sleep over. It was a perfect solution. Abigail agreed excitedly, and Thomas felt more at ease. Perfect, he said. What time should I pick her up? How about around 9? That gives us time for dinner, a little play, and it won't be too late for her. Deal. When they said goodbye, Thomas kissed Martha's forehead again, this time more naturally. Abigail watched, pleased, as if her plans were working perfectly. Bye, Miss Martha. Bye, Caleb, she waved from the car window. Tomorrow I'll bring my favorite games. Martha and Caleb waved until the car disappeared around the curve. Then they stood still on the sidewalk, processing everything that was happening in their lives. Mum, Caleb finally said, are you dating Thomas? The direct question left Martha momentarily speechless. Not yet, son. We're getting to know each other better. But do you like each other? We do. And does that mean Abigail could really become my sister? Maybe. But these things take time, Caleb. You can't rush it. I'm not rushing, said Caleb seriously. I just want you to be happy. And when you're with them, you have that big smile I haven't seen in a long time. Martha hugged her son, moved by his maturity. You're the best son in the world, you know that? And you're the best mum. That's why you deserve a big, happy family. That night, Martha prepared the house with special care to welcome Abigail. She cleaned everything again, prepared a simple but tasty dinner, and set aside some games the girl might like. Caleb helped excitedly, organizing his toys and choosing which ones to show his friend. Mum, what if she doesn't like our food? He asked worriedly. She'll like it. Abigail isn't picky with food. What if she misses her dad? Then we call him to come pick her up earlier. It's no problem at all. What if she thinks our house is too small? Caleb. Martha stopped what she was doing and crouched in front of her son. Abigail likes us for who we are, not for what we have. She's a special girl with a big heart. Relax. Okay? It's just that I want so badly for everything to work out. It will. You'll see. On Friday, Martha finished work early to have time to get ready before the visit. She took a long, careful shower, put on the blouse Thomas had complimented the most, and even dabbed on some cheap perfume she'd gotten for Christmas. Thomas and Abigail arrived promptly at 6, carrying a small backpack with the girls' belongings. I only brought pajamas and a toothbrush, explained Thomas, and some games she insisted on bringing. Perfect. Come in, Abby. Your home is here too. Abigail came in excitedly, greeted Caleb with a hug, and quickly made herself comfortable as if she'd been at home for years. Something smells good, Miss Martha. What did you make for dinner? Roasted chicken with potatoes and salad. I hope you like it. I love chicken. Grandma Beverly makes it at home, but yours must be different. Thomas stayed for dinner too at Martha's invitation. It was interesting to see how he adapted to the simple environment, sincerely praising the food and joining in the family conversations. Martha, this chicken is delicious, he said. How do you season it? Family secret, she joked. Garlic, lemon, and some little herbs I grow in the service area. You have a garden? A tiny one. Just herbs, really. Want to see? After dinner, she showed the little pots with parsley, mint, and basil that she cared for with affection. That's so cool, exclaimed Abigail. Can I help take care of them? Of course. Tomorrow I'll teach you how to water them just right. Thomas looked at the improvised herb garden with admiration. You're so creative at making use of every space. When there's no money left over, there's creativity left over, said Martha philosophically. I like that philosophy. They returned to the living room where the children had already spread games and toys across the floor. Abigail taught Caleb how to play a board game she'd brought, and they had fun like siblings. They get along well together, commented Thomas, watching the children. They complement each other. Abigail brings energy. Caleb brings calm. Like us, said Thomas softly, looking directly at Martha. She felt her face grow warm at the comment. How so? You bring me peace. I bring you... Well, I hope I bring something good too. You do. Security, companionship, Possibilities. Possibilities? Of being happy in a way I didn't think was possible. Thomas moved closer to her on the couch. Martha, can I ask you a serious question? Of course. Can you see yourself in a serious relationship with me, with everything that would imply? What kind of things? Meeting my family, my friends, going to places that might not be familiar to you, dealing with differences that will come up. Martha became thoughtful. She hadn't considered all these practical aspects. And you? Can you see yourself being part of my world? Meeting my neighbors, coming to barbecues on the rooftop, dealing with the simplicity of my everyday life? Yes, Thomas answered without hesitation. These days I've spent here have been the most authentic I've lived in a long time. Really? At home everything is very formal, organized, predictable. Here you all really live. You feel things intensely. It's refreshing. And you don't miss the luxury? What luxury? Expensive car, fancy restaurants, big house? Thomas shook his head. None of that matters when you're alone. Martha understood what he meant. She had experienced loneliness even surrounded by neighbors and acquaintances. It was a matter of genuine connection, not the number of people around. Thomas, she said after a moment, I want to try, but we need to go slow for the kids' sake. And we need to talk about everything, hiding nothing. I completely agree. And you? Would it bother you if other people had opinions about our social difference? They'll have opinions anyway, said Martha pragmatically. But if we're together for real love, other people's opinions don't matter. Love? Thomas smiled. Are we already talking about love? Martha realized she had used the word without thinking. Well, I mean, it's okay, reassured Thomas, taking her hand. Because I was thinking about that word too. They looked at each other in silence, both recognizing that something important had changed between them. It was no longer just attraction or curiosity. It was something deeper. Daddy! Miss Martha! Abigail came running. Come play with us. The intimate moment was interrupted, but it was clear there was much more to talk about when they were alone. The rest of the evening passed with games, laughter, and the natural companionship of 4 people who were becoming a family. Abigail adapted perfectly to the household routine, helping to clear the dinner plates and getting her things ready for bed. When it was time for Thomas to leave, there was a moment of hesitation. Abigail was so comfortable, she almost asked to stay, but her father thought it best not to push it the first time. Abby, are you sure you want to stay? He asked. I can come back to get you right now. I'm sure, Daddy. It'll be fun to sleep here. Thomas said goodbye to Caleb with a hug, a greeting that had become natural between them. Take care of Abby for me, he asked in a playful tone. You got it. We're going to play late and then tell stories. And be careful with horror movies, warned Thomas. She has nightmares. We'll only watch cartoons, promised Caleb. When it was time to say goodbye to Martha, Thomas hesitated. He wanted to kiss her properly, but not in front of the children. Thank you for welcoming Abby with so much affection, he said. Thank you for trusting me, she replied. He leaned in and kissed her forehead again, but this time lingered a little longer, conveying all the affection he felt. See you tomorrow, he murmured near her ear. See you tomorrow. After Thomas left, the children and Martha settled in the living room to watch cartoons. Abigail curled up on the couch as if it were her own home, commenting excitedly about the characters. At bedtime, Martha improvised an extra bed in Caleb's room, using mattresses and lots of pillows. The kids thought the setup was fun, like a camping trip. Miss Martha, said Abigail when she was already in bed, can I ask you a question? Of course, sweetie. Are you going to marry my daddy? The direct question made Martha stammer. Abby, it's still too early to think about that. But you like each other, right? I can tell by the way you look at each other. We do like each other, but marriage is a serious thing. It takes time. How much time? I don't know. It depends on a lot of things. Abigail grew thoughtful in the dark. You know, Miss Martha, ever since Mommy left, my daddy is always sad. Even when he's smiling, I can see he's sad inside. And now? Now he smiles for real when he's with you, like he used to smile with Mommy. The girl's words touched Martha's heart deeply. And you? How do you feel about all this? Happy. Very happy. I always wanted to have a brother and a mom again. And Caleb is the best brother I could get. And if things don't work out between me and your dad, you'll still be friends just the same. But it will work out, said Abigail with absolute conviction. Mommy sent you to us, I'm sure. Martha didn't believe in that sort of thing, but the girl's innocent faith was touching. Sleep, my love. Tomorrow there's lots to play. Good night, Miss Martha. Thank you for letting me sleep here. Good night, Princess. Martha stayed for a while watching the two children sleep, reflecting on everything that was happening in her life. In just a few days, her lonely routine had transformed into an unlikely but real family. Could it really work out? Was Thomas really willing to face the difficulties of a relationship so socially unequal? And was she ready to enter a world she didn't know? The doubts danced in her head, but deep down she knew she wanted to try. It had been too long since she had felt so alive, so hopeful about the future. What if Abigail was right about her mother sending that family to them? Martha shook her head, smiling at her own foolishness. She didn't believe in signs from beyond, but she did believe in second chances. And this seemed like quite a second chance, dear listener. If you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot, as we're just starting out. Now continuing. On Saturday morning, Martha woke to the smell of coffee she hadn't made. She got up startled and found Abigail in the kitchen trying to reach the coffee maker on the high shelf. Abby? What are you doing awake so early? I wanted to make breakfast for everyone, the girl explained, like I sometimes do for Daddy at home. But sweetheart, you don't know my kitchen. You could have gotten hurt. Sorry, Ms. Martha. I just wanted to help. Martha realized she had been too harsh and softened her tone. You don't need to apologize. That was very sweet of you. Shall we do it together? Really? Of course. You teach me how you make it for your dad. I'll teach you how I make it for Caleb. Abigail beamed and they began to prepare breakfast together. The girl knew how to make scrambled eggs and explained her technique in detail, proud of her knowledge. Grandma Beverly taught me, she said as she cracked the eggs. She said every girl needs to know how to cook the basics. Mrs. Beverly is right. It's important to be independent. Mommy also knew how to cook very well. She made a chocolate cake that was the best in the world. Tell me more about your mother, asked Martha, curious to better understand the family she was becoming part of. She was very pretty and smelled nice, said Abigail thoughtfully. She always wore floral perfume, and she sang in the shower every morning. What else? She drew houses. She had a huge desk full of papers with drawings of houses. She always said that one day she would draw the most beautiful house in the world just for me. Martha felt her chest tighten. Evelyn had left so much love in just a few years with her daughter. And do you miss her? I do, but lately less because I'm happy with you all. Do you think your mother would be happy knowing you have new friends? Abigail didn't hesitate. Absolutely. She always said love doesn't end, it only multiplies. The more people we love, the more love there is in the world. The girl's wisdom, mixing innocence and depth, impressed Martha. Caleb woke to the sound of the two talking in the kitchen and appeared in his pajamas, still sleepy. Good morning, he said, rubbing his eyes. You two are up early. Abigail wanted to make breakfast for us, explained Martha. That's so cool. No one's ever made breakfast for me besides Mom. Now you have two people who do, declared Abigail. Me and Ms. Martha. The three had coffee together at a table that had never seemed so full of life. Abigail told them about her dreams from the night. Caleb talked about his plans for the day, and Martha watched it all with growing emotion. At 9 in the morning, Thomas arrived to pick up his daughter. Martha opened the door still in her pajamas, hair messy and sleepy-eyed. Sorry to look like this, she said, embarrassed. I wasn't expecting you so early. You look beautiful, Thomas said sincerely. Natural, relaxed. I like seeing you like this. Daddy, Abigail came running. We slept like it was a slumber party, and we made breakfast together. That's great, Princess. Did you have fun? So much. Can I sleep here again? If Miss Martha allows it. Whenever she wants, Martha assured him. It was wonderful having her here. Thomas observed the domestic scene with emotion. Your daughter integrated into the family, Martha maternal and affectionate, Caleb treating Abigail like a true sister. Martha, can I talk to you for a minute? He asked. Of course. Boys, finish tidying up the toys in the meantime. They moved away to the laundry area where they would have privacy. How was the night? Did Abby give you any trouble? None. She behaved as if she had lived here for years. And how did you feel having her here? Martha thought about her answer. Natural, as if she really were part of the family. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, said Thomas, moving closer, because I feel that way with you all too. Really? Martha, last night, driving home alone, I realized something. I haven't felt this complete in months, and it's not just because of you, although you are the center of everything. It's for the family we are forming. Thomas, let me finish, he asked, taking her hands. I know it's early. I know we have a lot to figure out, but I need you to know. I'm falling in love. With you, with your strength, with the way you care for Caleb, with how easily Abigail has adapted here. Martha's heart raced. She had felt the same, but hearing the words made it all more real. I'm falling in love too, she admitted. But I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Of not being enough for your world, of Abigail tiring of the novelty and wanting her mother back, of you realizing we are from worlds too different. Thomas pulled her closer until their faces were just inches apart. Martha, you are more than enough. You are everything I didn't know I was looking for. And then he kissed her, not on the forehead this time, but on the lips, gentle and tender, conveying all the feelings that had been growing between them. When they parted, Martha was breathless. Wow, she murmured. Wow, agreed Thomas, smiling. Daddy, Miss Martha! Abigail came running. Are you kissing? They both blushed, but Thomas didn't try to deny it. Yes, we are, Princess, because we like each other very much. That's great, celebrated Abigail. Now you can get married soon. Abigail, Thomas scolded, things don't work that quickly. Why not? You like each other. We all like each other. Everyone is happy. What's the problem? The girl's simple logic drew laughter from the adults. There's no problem, said Martha, kneeling in front of Abigail. But dating and marriage are things that need time to work out. How much time? I don't know. It depends on how things go. What if I say I want you to be my parents today? Thomas interjected. Abby, Miss Martha can't be your mother. You already have a mother who is in heaven watching over us. I know that, said Abigail with ease. But I can have two mothers, right? One in heaven and one here on earth. The simplicity with which she resolved the most emotionally complicated issue of the situation left the adults speechless. You're amazing, you know that, said Martha, hugging the girl. I got it from my mother, joked Abigail, repeating a phrase she had clearly heard from adults. Caleb, who had observed everything from the doorway, approached timidly. What about me? He asked softly. Can I have two fathers too? The question touched Thomas's heart deeply. He crouched down and looked Caleb in the eyes. Caleb, would you like me to be a sort of father to you? I'd like that very much, replied the boy, emotional. I always wanted to have a father who liked me. Then that's what I'll be, promised Thomas, hugging the boy, if your mother allows it. All eyes turned to Martha, who had tears in her eyes. Of course I allow it, she said, her voice choked. You are the best thing that has happened in our lives. Abigail and Caleb celebrated as if they had won the lottery, hugging the adults and making plans for the immediate future. Now we're officially a family, declared Abigail. Can we have a party? What kind of party? Asked Thomas. A new family party, with cake, soda, and music. That's a great idea, agreed Martha. We can do it today. Really? The children shouted in unison. Really? Thomas, would you be up for going to the market with me to buy things for the party? I'm up for anything with you, he replied, making her blush again. And can we help make the cake? Asked Caleb. Yes, you can. It will be a party made by all of us. The rest of the morning was a pleasant rush of preparations. Thomas and Martha went to the market together for the first time, pushing the cart like a regular couple, choosing ingredients and getting to know each other better through culinary preferences. "What kind of cake do you like?" asked Martha. "Any one you make will be perfect." "No diplomatic answers allowed," she laughed. "What's your real favorite flavor?" "Chocolate. Really chocolatey, like Evelyn used to make." Martha hesitated for a moment. Would it be appropriate to make a cake that reminded him of his late wife? "Thomas, won't it be strange for me to make a cake just like Evelyn's?" "It won't be the same," he said gently. "It will be yours. And it will have your care, your personality. Evelyn was part of the past. You are part of the present and the future." The answer reassured her. Thomas had found a way to honor his wife's memory without letting it interfere with the new relationship. Back at the house, they found Abigail and Caleb organizing the living room for the impromptu party. They had gathered the few CDs Martha had and created a playlist on her old radio. "Such efficiency," praised Thomas. "You two work well as a team." "We learned by watching you," Abigail replied cleverly. The afternoon flew by with preparations, laughter, and the genuine joy of four people who had found in each other exactly what they needed. They made the cake together, all four around the small kitchen table, each contributing something. Abigail cracked the eggs, Caleb mixed the batter, Thomas melted the chocolate, and Martha coordinated everything with maternal patience. "This is going to be the best cake in the world," declared Abigail, smeared with chocolate up to her ears. "Why are you so sure?" asked Thomas. "Because it was made with lots of love by a real family." While the cake baked, they decorated the living room with colored paper Thomas had bought, creating makeshift paper banners and handwritten signs. "Harrison Sterling Family Party," Abigail wrote on a poster board. "Harrison Sterling?" questioned Martha. "It's our family name now," explained Abigail. "Half of each." Thomas and Martha exchanged a meaningful look. The girl was publicly declaring that they were a family, including the last names. "I like it," said Thomas. "The Harrison Sterling family has a nice ring to it." "It really does," agreed Martha, smiling. When the cake was ready and the table was set with root beer, chips, and simple sweets, they made a toast with colorful plastic cups. "A toast," said Thomas, raising his glass, "to the most unlikely and perfect family I could imagine." "To the Harrison Sterling family," shouted the children. "To the Harrison Sterling family," repeated Martha, moved. They danced in the small living room, laughed at the children's silly jokes, ate cake until they felt sick, and took pictures with Martha's old cell phone. It was a simple party, in a humble home, with cheap food and makeshift decorations. But there was more love and genuine joy there than in any sophisticated social event Thomas had ever attended. "You know," he said to Martha as they watched the children dance, "this is the best party of my life." "Really? Better than those rich businessman parties?" "Infinitely better, because this party is real." When night fell, nobody wanted the party to end. Abigail asked to sleep over again. Caleb begged Thomas to stay too. "Daddy, you can sleep on the sofa," suggested Abigail. "That way you don't have to leave." Thomas looked at Martha, who blushed but didn't deny the possibility. "If you don't mind," he said hesitantly, "just so we don't break the magic of the day." "Of course I don't mind," replied Martha, "but you'll be uncomfortable on the sofa. I've slept in worse places, and for the first time in months I'll go to sleep happy." They fixed up a little spot for Thomas on the living room sofa, with extra pillows and a blanket. The children thought the situation was fantastic, as if they were all a family on a camping trip. When everyone finally settled down to sleep, Martha lay there thinking about how her life had completely changed in such a short time. 2 weeks earlier, she was a woman alone, struggling to survive and care for her sick son. Now she had a wonderful man in love with her, a girl who called her a second mother, and a future full of possibilities. Was it too good to be true? She got up quietly and went to the kitchen for some water. Thomas was awake in the living room, staring at the ceiling. "Can't sleep," she murmured softly. I'm afraid, he confessed. Afraid of what? Of waking up and finding out all of this was a dream. Martha approached and sat on the edge of the sofa. It wasn't a dream. We're here, together. And this is real. How can you be so sure? Because I've never felt anything like this before, and true feelings don't lie. Thomas took her hand and kissed it gently. I love you, Martha. I love you too, Thomas. It was the first time they had exchanged those words, and the weight of them filled the room with emotion. And now? He asked. Now we take it one day at a time, building our family our way. Will it work out? It will, she replied with conviction, because when love is true, it always finds a way. Martha went back to her room with a peaceful heart. No matter the challenges that came, they would face them together. The next morning they woke up as a real family. Thomas helped make breakfast. The children played together while the adults talked about future plans. Thomas, said Martha over coffee, we need to talk about some practical things. What kind of things? How we'll handle the financial difference between us. I don't want you to feel obligated to pay for everything, nor do I want to feel dependent. And how would you like it to be? We each contribute what we can. You have more money, you contribute more. I have less, I contribute less, but always proportionally to what we earn. That makes sense. And about housing? Would you move to my house, or would you prefer I move here? It was a complex question. Thomas's house was much nicer, but this was the home Martha had built with so much effort. We could try both arrangements, she suggested. Spend a few days in each house, see what works best for the children. Great idea. And about school? Abigail goes to an expensive private school. And Caleb goes to a simple public one, Martha completed. I don't want him to feel inferior because of that. And I don't want Abigail to become snobby. How about we look for a middle ground school for both of them? Private, but without extravagance? Martha was touched by his concern to find solutions that included everyone equally. You've really thought of everything, haven't you? I've been thinking about our family's future for days. I want this to work, Martha, more than anything in my life. It will, she assured him, because we're willing to work to make it work. Abigail and Caleb, who had overheard part of the conversation, approached the table. And can we give our opinion about the school? Asked Abigail. Of course, said Thomas. You're the ones who will be studying there. So I want a school with a big library and a sports court, requested Abigail. And I want a school that accepts people with physical difficulties without making a difference, said Caleb. Let's look for a school that has all of that, promised Martha. The first practical steps to unite the families were being taken with maturity and care. Thomas and Martha talked about everything: bills, responsibilities, the children's education, relationships with relatives and friends. And your family, Thomas, how will they react when they find out about me? My parents live in the countryside of São Paulo. They are simple people. They'll adore you. My brother is a bit complicated, but that's his problem, not ours. Complicated how? He thinks the family has a status to uphold. He might turn up his nose at you at first. And does that bother you? Not at all. If he can't recognize your quality, that's his limitation. Thomas's assurance calmed her. He really was willing to face any external resistance to protect their relationship. And about your work? He asked. Do you plan to keep selling watermelons? For now, yes. But I've been thinking about that idea you gave me to expand the business. Really, that's great. I've been doing some calculations. If I can get a small loan, I can rent a fixed spot at the market and diversify products. Martha, that's fantastic. And you know you can count on me for whatever you need, right? I know. But I want to try on my own first. If I can't manage, I'll accept your help. Thomas respected her independence, only offering support when necessary. Sunday passed with the same naturalness. Thomas stayed the whole day, only leaving to pick up clean clothes from home and handle some work matters. At night, when they finally needed to say goodbye, everyone was reluctant to disband the temporary family they had created. Tomorrow will you come for dinner at my place? Invited Thomas. Mrs. Beverly is dying to properly meet Caleb and make that special recipe of hers. We can, replied Martha. What time? 7? That gives you time to rest after work. Perfect. The goodbyes were affectionate, with kisses and hugs that were already part of the family routine. Abby made Thomas promise he would call before bed, and Caleb asked Thomas to tell a story over the phone. "We're turning into a clingy family," joked Thomas. "It's the best kind of family there is," replied Martha. On Monday, Martha worked with renewed energy. She was excited about the prospect of expanding the business and confident in the relationship that was strengthening every day. Thomas stopped by the watermelon stand at lunchtime, becoming a familiar figure among the regular customers. "That's Martha's boyfriend," the customers would comment. "Lucky man." "And her. What a hard-working woman," Thomas would reply with pride. "I'm the lucky one to have found someone like that." The naturalness with which they publicly presented themselves as a couple strengthened the relationship even more. In the afternoon, Thomas showed up earlier than planned, bringing Abby straight from school. "I couldn't wait until tonight," he confessed. "Abby spent the whole day talking about you all, and I was anxious too." "That's great. I just finished here. Shall we all go home together?" "Let's go." The routine that was established was perfect. Thomas and Abby spent the afternoons with Martha and Caleb, had dinner together at one or the other's house, and gradually they naturally spent more nights at each other's places than apart. In 2 weeks, Thomas was practically living in Martha's small house, and Abby had gotten a wardrobe in Caleb's room. "I think it's time we made an official decision," said Thomas on a Thursday night while they were watching television on the sofa. "What kind of decision?" "About housing. We're living together in practice, but officially we're still single in separate homes." Martha grew thoughtful. It was true the situation was undefined, and the children deserved stability. "What are you proposing?" "Marriage, soon. No big party, no fuss. Just the 4 of us and the necessary paperwork." "Thomas, are you sure? It's a big step." "Martha, I've been living with you for 2 weeks. Abby calls you Mum. Caleb calls me Dad. What difference does an official paper make? It makes a legal, financial, social difference." "Exactly. That's why I think we should make it official soon." Abby and Caleb, who were apparently sleeping in their room, came running into the living room. "Are you getting married?" asked Abby excitedly. "We were just talking about that," said Thomas. "Then the answer is yes," declared Abby. "We authorize it." Everyone laughed at the childish authorization, but there was a truth there. The children really did need the adults to define the situation. "And you, Caleb?" asked Martha. "What do you think?" "I think Thomas is already my dad, and you're already Abby's mum. The marriage will just make it all official." The simplicity with which the children saw the situation helped Martha make the decision. "All right," she said. "Let's get married." "Really?" Thomas hadn't expected such a quick answer. "Really, you're right. We're already a family, we just need to make it official." Abby and Caleb celebrated as if it were New Year's, jumping on the sofa and making plans for the wedding. "Will there be a party?" asked Abby. "A small one," said Martha. "Just for us and a few special people." "And a honeymoon." Thomas and Martha exchanged an amused look. "How about a family honeymoon?" suggested Thomas. "A weekend at the beach, the 4 of us together." "It's the best honeymoon in the world," approved Abby. The next day, Thomas and Martha went to the county clerk's office to sort out the necessary paperwork for the civil marriage. They discovered that, with all the paperwork, they could get married in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, repeated Martha, a little startled by the speed of events. "Having second thoughts?" asked Thomas. "No, anxious." "Good anxiety or bad anxiety?" "Good, very good." They used the 3 weeks to organize the practical details of merging the families. Thomas put his house up for sale, and they looked for a bigger house where everyone would feel comfortable. "I don't want a mansion," said Martha during the search. "I want a home." "I agree. It has to be cozy, not showy." They found a perfect house that was a happy medium. 3 bedrooms, a big backyard, a spacious kitchen, in a quiet neighborhood, but without excessive luxury. "This is it," declared Abby, as soon as she walked in. "I feel like it's going to be our real home." "I feel that too," agreed Caleb. Thomas bought the house outright, but put it in both their names so Martha would feel like a true owner of the new home. "Thomas, this is too much." "Martha, you're going to be my wife. Everything that's mine is yours. And vice versa. But I have almost nothing to share. You have love, affection, life wisdom. That's far more valuable than money." The move was done gradually, combining the belongings of both families and creating an environment that represented everyone. Martha insisted on keeping some old furniture that had sentimental value, even though Thomas offered new and better furniture. "This sofa witnessed Caleb's first words," she explained. "I can't part with it." "Then it stays in the TV room," decided Thomas, "and we'll buy a new sofa for the living room." Their ability to find solutions that respected everyone's feelings was working well. Mrs. Beverly adapted to the new family configuration naturally, treating Martha and Caleb as if they had been part of the household for years. "It's so good that Dr. Thomas found someone so special," she said to Martha. Little Abby was in need of a real mother. "Thank you, Mrs. Beverly. I'll do my best to be a good mother to her." "You already are. I see it in the girl's eyes. She is whole again." The approval of the former housekeeper was important to Martha, who saw her as a kind of guardian of Evelyn's memory. The civil wedding took place on a Friday morning, right at the courthouse with only the children as witnesses. Martha wore a simple but pretty blue dress, Thomas a dark suit without a tie. Abigail and Caleb were impeccable, she in a pink dress, he in dress pants and a white shirt. "The time has come," said Thomas, taking Martha's hand before they entered the courthouse. "It has," she agreed. "Ready to be officially the Harrison-Sterling family?" "More than ready." The ceremony was quick and emotional. When the judge declared them husband and wife, Abigail and Caleb applauded as if they were at a theater. "Now you can kiss," shouted Abigail. Thomas and Martha laughed and kissed for the first time as husband and wife, officially united. "We're a real family," celebrated Abigail. "We already were," said Martha. "Now we just have a paper that proves it." They celebrated with a special lunch at a restaurant the children chose, nothing too fancy, just a place where everyone felt comfortable. In the afternoon, they went to the new house, which was already completely arranged and decorated. "Welcome to our home," said Thomas, carrying Martha in his arms to cross the threshold, as tradition dictates. "Our house!" shouted the children, running to explore every corner again. The first night as an officially married family was peaceful and happy. They dined in the new kitchen, watched television in the comfortable living room, and slept for the first time, all under the same roof, legally. "How do you feel, Mrs. Sterling?" asked Thomas before they slept. "Perfect, Mr. Sterling," she replied. "No regrets?" "None. And you?" "Only that I didn't meet you sooner." "We met at the right time," Martha philosophized. "If it were before, maybe we wouldn't have been ready." "True. Now we are exactly what we need to be for each other." The family honeymoon weekend was magical. They went to a simple beach inn, where they spent 3 days playing in the sand, swimming in the sea, and strengthening family bonds even more. Abigail and Caleb behaved like blood siblings, sharing everything and caring for each other with genuine affection. "You two did a good job," Thomas said to Martha, as they watched the children building sandcastles. "How so?" "Abigail and you. You found each other and completed each other at the right time. Just like the two of us. Just like the two of us." Back home, they resumed their routine with more stability. Thomas adapted his work schedule to spend more time with the family, and Martha began to put her business expansion plans into practice. With a small loan she got from the bank, she rented a stall at the town's central market and started selling not just watermelons, but other fruits too. "How's the new venture going?" Thomas would ask every night. "Better than I hoped. Having a fixed location makes a difference. Customers know where to find me." "And are you managing it all by yourself?" "For now, yes. If it grows more, I might need help." "You can count on me for whatever you need." "I know I can count on you. That gives me the security to take risks." Within 2 months of marriage, Martha had tripled her revenue and was considering hiring an assistant. Abigail and Caleb adapted perfectly to the new school they chose together. It was a medium-sized private institution that offered a good education without excessive luxury. The two made friends quickly and started bringing classmates over to play at the house, filling the home with life and joy. "Our house has become a meeting point," Thomas commented one afternoon when there were 6 children playing in the backyard. "And does it bother you?" "On the contrary, I love seeing our home full of life." "Same here. I never imagined I could have such a large and happy family." Life moved at a pleasant, normal pace. Thomas worked during the day, Martha ran the business at the market, the children studied and played, and at night everyone gathered for dinner to talk about their day. Weekends were dedicated to family activities, parks, movies, visits to relatives, or simply staying home enjoying each other's company. "You know," Thomas said one night, 6 months after the wedding, "I've never been this happy in my life." "Me neither," Martha agreed. "Sometimes I'm afraid of being too happy." "Why?" "Because it seems like when we get too happy, life decides to send some problem to balance things out. Or maybe life has decided we've suffered enough and deserve to be happy. Could be. I hope that's it." But life, as always, had other plans. On an ordinary Tuesday, Thomas came home earlier and more serious than usual. "Did something happen?" Martha asked, noticing his expression. "I need to talk to you. It's about the company." "A serious problem?" "Could be. Let's wait for the children to go to sleep so we can talk properly." Martha was worried the rest of the evening but pretended everything was normal in front of Abby and Caleb. When they were finally alone, Thomas explained the situation. "My biggest client cancelled the contract. It represented 40% of the company's revenue." "Oh my. And now?" "I have 2 options. Drastically cut costs and try to survive with the smaller clients, or close the company and start something else." "Which option do you prefer?" "I don't know. That's why I need to talk to you. Any decision will affect our family." Martha grew thoughtful. This was the first real crisis they faced as a couple. "How much time do we have to decide?" 2 weeks at most. After that, I'll have to lay off employees or close for good." "And if you cut costs, can you keep the company running?" "For a while." 4. "But it will be much tighter financially." "Define much tighter." Thomas did some mental calculations. "We'd have to sell the new house and move back to a simpler one, take the kids out of private school, cut all extra expenses." Martha felt her stomach turn, not because of the financial issue itself, but from seeing Thomas so distressed. "Thomas, I married you, not your money. If we need to live more simply, we will. But the children will understand, and they'll learn that a united family overcomes any difficulty." "Are you sure? You won't regret it?" "Absolutely sure. In fact, it might even be good." "How so?" "Maybe you'll discover you can be happy without so much money, and maybe I can help more since my business is growing." Thomas hugged her, moved. "How lucky I was to find you." "We were both lucky." They talked late into the night about all the possibilities and ramifications of the situation. They decided Thomas would try to keep the company running for a few more months, but with reduced costs. They sold the big house and bought a smaller, cozy one in the same neighborhood where Martha lived before. The children reacted to the change with surprising maturity. "You're not upset about having to leave the big house?" Martha asked. "A big house doesn't mean a happy family," Abby replied with wisdom beyond her years. "We were happy in a small house before." "And now we're going to be happy in a small house again," Caleb added. The adjustment was easier than they expected. The smaller house forced everyone to be closer, strengthening the family bond even more. Martha expanded the business at the market, hired 2 employees, and became the family's main source of income for a few months. "How does it feel being supported by your wife?" She joked with Thomas one night. "Proud," he answered sincerely. "Seeing you run a business that has grown so much is inspiring." "Really? You don't feel diminished?" "Not at all. I feel complete. When I was doing well, I took care of you. Now that you're doing better, you take care of me. That's how marriage works. The crisis, instead of separating them, brought them even closer." Thomas discovered he could be happy with much less money, and Martha discovered she could be successful in business. After 8 months of difficulties, Thomas secured 2 new clients, and the company began to grow again. not with the same intensity as before, but in a more solid and sustainable way. "I think this crisis was good for us," he said one night, a year after the hardship began. "Why? Because we proved our family can withstand any storm. And we discovered we are stronger together than we ever imagined." Exactly. Abigail and Caleb, now 8 and 10 years old respectively, had become true siblings. They fought like siblings, defended each other like siblings, and loved each other like siblings. "Sometimes I forget they aren't biological siblings," commented Thomas. "A sibling isn't someone born from the same womb," philosophized Martha. "It's someone who grows from the same heart. You always have the right words at the right time. I learned from life, and from all of you." 2 years after the marriage, the Harrison-Sterling family had found its perfect rhythm. Thomas worked with a better balance between his personal and professional life. Martha had a thriving business at the market, and the children grew up happy and well-adjusted. "You know what amazes me the most?" said Thomas one Sunday afternoon, watching Abigail and Caleb play in the backyard. "What?" "How we managed to create a family so naturally from such an unlikely situation." "It wasn't unlikely," corrected Martha. "It was fate." "You believe in fate?" "I believe in life-changing encounters, and ours was one of them." "You're right. If Abigail hadn't yelled for me to buy all her watermelons that day, we would have met another way," said Martha with conviction. "People who are made for each other always find a way." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I look at our family and see how everything fit together perfectly. You needed someone to care for Abigail and make you happy again. I needed someone to share life with and help with Caleb. Abigail needed a present mother. Caleb needed a caring father. And we all got exactly what we needed." "Exactly. That can't be a coincidence." Thomas agreed, hugging his wife as they watched their children play. "Martha? Thank you." "For what?" "For accepting our crazy family from day one, for not giving up when things got tough, for teaching me that true love exists. Thank you for showing me I deserve to be happy." We deserve to be happy. We did, and we are. The story of the Harrison-Sterling family continued to be written each day, with small moments of joy, challenges overcome together, and a lot of love circulating within the walls of their cozy home. And if anyone asked any of the four what the best day of their lives was, they would all answer the same thing. The day Abigail yelled, "Buy them all, Daddy, she needs to," and changed everyone's destiny forever. End of story. And now, tell us, what did you think of this true love story? Do you believe encounters like this can happen in real life? If you have a similar story or want to share your opinion with us, leave your comment. Thank you so much for following along. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories.